we shall not be moved like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. Union is behind us. We shall not be moved. The union is behind us. We shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We're fighting for our freedom. We shall not be moved.
And welcome to this Labor Day special. This is me, Joni, and I'm glad today to have a co-host also by the name of Chuck, but it is not Chuck Hicks. It is Chuck Modiano, who is graciously agreed to assist me today, better known to some of us as Street Beat, out in the streets all the time, as we shall hear. You can also hear him every Thursday morning with Dave Zirin and The Collision. So welcome, Chuck.
Joni, great to be here. Great to be here. As always.
Oh, okay. I didn't know Chuck was on. So Chuck, happy Labor Day.
Happy Labor Day.
Yes, and Chuck, of course, has a long history in the labor movement, being the president of the Chuck, help me out, of AFSCME's, our DC area AFSCME union, representing many tens of thousands of workers. He was the president for many, many years. And we also have joining us Josh Armstead, who is with Unite Here, DC Local Unite Here 23. And I'm going to ask each of them to say a few words. But our theme today is building labor, community collaboration to end the DC military takeover, defeat fascism, and end genocide. So again, building a labor community coalition. What can we do to make that happen, especially in these days? We're going to start out with a discussion about who is your labor hero and your labor shero. I'm going to ask my guests to respond to that. Personally, I'm going to start. And maybe if you can give a hero, both a personal one, maybe a local one, and maybe a national one. And I'm going to do one personal and one local. I was thrilled to hear Julian Malveaux talk about Rosie the Riveters and Black women in World War II. And I must say that I'm very proud of my mother, who was one of the first 12 women in a Brooklyn shipyard during the midst of World War II. There were 10,000 men working in the shipyard. She and 12 other women decided they wanted to help out, and so they were let in. And my mother later, women were not allowed to be in the union, but she negotiated, and eventually there were many women workers there in that shipyard, and they were members of the union. So that's my personal shero. I would also, and Julianne just also lifted up a Philip Randolph, and I wanted to do that as well. People may know, and maybe this year we could have a special celebration on PFW. This is the 100th anniversary of the founding of the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, founded in 1925 by A. Philip Randolph. And this was the first successful African-American-led labor union in the country, the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters. And I also want to mention that there were actually women who were part of the sleeping car porters, Black women. And we do have members of the WPFW family who have ancestors who were women sleeping car porters. A shout out to my dear friend, Adora Iris Lee, who always told stories about her relative who was a sleeping car porter. And we'll just start with one quote from A. Philip Randolph that people should know. And I always encourage people when you go to Union Station these days, there's a lot going on there, but hopefully you will still find the statue of A. Philip Randolph. I go and speak to him every time I'm there, but the quote on that statue, at the banquet table of nature, there are no reserved seats. You get what you can take and you keep what you can hold. You can't take anything, you won't get anything until you are organized, without organization. So that's A. Philip Randolph. I'm going to jump now to Josh Armstead. Welcome, Josh. And of course, tell us a little bit about you and Unite Here 23, and who are some of one or two of your personal heroes or local heroes or national heroes in labor. And welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Happy Labor Day. My name is Josh Armstead. I'm the Vice President of Unite Here Local 23. Unite Here Local 23 is a food service, and hospitality workers union. About 5,000 members in the DMV. Unite Here is in 2 countries, the United States and Canada. About 300,000 members in those countries. Bartenders, servers, cooks, dishwashers, operating hotels, casinos, institutional cafeteria service, business and industry. Yeah, we are the Food Service and Hospitality Workers Union and been around for quite some time. It's funny you mentioned A. Philip Randolph. A. Philip Randolph, of course, started the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, and Unite Here Local 23, at least east of the Mississippi, represents the Amtrak workers who are the porters and the attendants who are descendants of that union. So
wow.
It's a pretty interesting historical fact. So whenever you go to Union Station and you talk to that bust of A. Philip Randolph, and they have moved it, actually,
yes, they
a little
have.
bit. They've moved it. But whenever you hop on an Amtrak train and you go to New York, or you're taking a long distance train to the South, those are the descendants of that union, and they're members of my union. So give them a shout out, show them some love.
Absolutely. And you want to just take a few minutes now to tell a little bit about the history. You said some of it, but the Unite Local 23 started in the late 1800s. Is that true?
Not in the late 1800s. Unite Here Local 23, its predecessor union, was a CIO union before the merger of the AFL and the CIO. It started off as United Cafeteria Workers Local 471. And it was a group of institutionalized cafeteria service workers who mainly worked in federal buildings, and they got tired of being paid chump change. And, there are many, this actually leads to like the historical heroes and the personal heroes, but, a lot of the heroes that we talk about, whether it's A. Philip Randolph or Eugene Debs or Paul Robeson or Josephine Butler or many others that are celebrated in the movement, in labor, in American labor, it is the ordinary men and women, the shop stewards, the committee leaders, that are often not written about or often unseen, unknown, that are the true heroes. And I say this because these are the people that keep the union running. And, whether it's people who started 471 back in 1937. Rosa Lewis, a Black woman who got, like I said, tired of being paid chump change, along with her co-workers, started the union, and they quickly organized the cafeterias and became a force in the city, known for progressive social and internationalist politics. That eventually even played a role in the desegregation of D.C. in the 1950s. In terms of lunch counters, right, and other institutions. these are the things that we have to realize. Like, we're not just stepping on the giants of people that we know. We're stepping on the shoulders of giants of, the unknown, right? The people who actually put in that work. And so it's always good to remember that. And, Unite Here Local 23 came about through mergers. 471, after the merger of the AFL and the CIO, became Here, HERE, Hotel Employees and Restaurant Employees Union, number 5, 43. And then there were some more mergers along the way. That was, 165, local 27, local 32, local 25, which is 23 sister local for hotels, and then eventually 23. So there's a long history, but it's often buried, whether intentionally or just by a relic of the past, is up to debate. But it's always good to realize that history and to remember that we are not in a vacuum, so to speak.
Yes, we're not. And maybe we can spend a moment talking about Josephine Butler. I just want to share with listeners that I first met Josh Armstead just this last May Day, which people should know was May 1st. And he gave such a riveting speech that I had to run across the field to meet him. And so we're glad to have him on with us as a frequent guest now. Of course, Unite Here 23 is also the union of Sam Epps, who we're very proud of, who is the president of the Metropolitan AFL-CIO, Metropolitan Council AFL-CIO. And we're going to talk a little bit about what they did last Thursday, August 28th, with Free DC and others. And of course, Sam Epps was our guest last week. Let's talk real quick, Josh, about Josephine Butler, who was affiliated, I think you shared with me, with your union. I actually was a friend of Josephine Butler, and I think Chuck Hicks maybe was as well. She was a fierce organizer for statehood. Good morning, Chuck.
Good morning, John. Yes, I was.
You want to say a few words about Josephine Butler and also something that you are proud of in terms of the labor movement?
Well,
or your people you know.
When I first got to D.C., I met Josephine Butler, and I was just getting into the union, and she brought me by the side. I had ran for an office and didn't get it. And she said, "Don't worry, you're going to be okay. You're going to make it." And so she tutored me, and I stayed by her side, and I was with her all the way. She was just a wonderful person, a wonderful mentor. She took time to train you and to make sure you understood what you were doing and why you were doing it and the effects of it. And of course, the other person that I hold up as a hero is my dad, who was head of the Black Union in Bogalusa, Louisiana, that went on strike for wages and all that kind of stuff. So those are my two heroes.
And of course, your dad was also the founder of the Deacons for Defense in Bogalusa, which is some of what he had can still be hopefully seen at the African American Museum there before they take it away. But we are very proud of you, Chuck, and we're proud of your family.
My dad's shotgun and other things.
Yes, and just to add, of course, a lot of listeners do not know who Josephine Butler was, although there's a building for her named Josephine Butler Building right there at Malcolm X Park, but she was very much a part of the WPFW family. And Josh, maybe you can help me. She organized federal workers in the help me out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Josephine Butler, and I might be revealing my age here. I believe she passed on to glory in 1997, right? So
yes.
I'm a little bit younger. I'm 34. But, again, this goes back to like knowing of the history and whether it's buried or whether it's just forgotten. But Josephine Butler is rightly celebrated for her organizing an OPEIU in the federal buildings, but she got her start in, Unite Here Local 23's predecessor, which I just mentioned, 471. And it was during that time, especially in the 40s, 1948, the union had went on a gigantic strike against McCarthyism and red baiting, union busting McCarthyism against the employer at the time, which was GSI, which was a massive monopoly in the federal buildings for its cafeteria service. And, she, along with others, like President Bancroft, who was the president of the local at the time, and all the other people who faced HUAC and the trials at the time, the coldest winter in 1948, she got her start there. And, it's a forgotten history.
Well,
that
no accident.
Yeah, she again rightly is celebrated for her organizing work at OPIU. In fact, you can find many websites that detail it. I have not seen one website actually that mentions any significant work in 471. And again, like I said, without 471, which eventually became Unite Here Local 23, we wouldn't even really be talking about the desegregation of cafeterias in the District of Columbia, because those were among the many organizations and many peoples were some of the best shock troops, right? Like these were the people who said, yeah, I'm going to sit at a lunch counter. I'm going to risk arrest. I'm going to take action to pressure the government and pressure the companies to desegregate. So again, right, that's another part of Josephine Butler that is lost to history, even with the honors that have been previously mentioned.
Absolutely, and that is no accident, I believe, and we're going to continue to do what we can to make sure that her true organizing history is told. And again, she was a leader in the statehood movement, as well as many other things. So let's now go to Chuck Modiano. If you want to share any person or movement that you're proud of in terms of labor, and I'm not sure if this is correct, but I think that there are people out there every night now, workers, I don't know if they're volunteers, that are documenting what is happening with the homeless. And you may know about that, but Chuck, what are your thoughts about a person or a movement in labor that you're proud of?
Well, I want to say I'm going to triple down on A. Philip Randolph. Because that was my first answer, and I'm not going to go elsewhere because it was said, and there's so much to be said about A. Philip Randolph, who, again, like so many other people, are written out of history. And he's mostly known for the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters. But there's so much legislation that he was able to help ban discrimination, whether it was in the defense industry under FDR, or it was the Civil Rights Act under Truman. These acts don't come about just like poof out of the goodwill and good heart of these presidents. They come about through relentless pressure. And everybody knows about the 1963 March on Washington, but the only reason there wasn't a 1941 March on Washington was because A. Philip Randolph made a deal to get the legislation that he wanted, because he was going to have the march, and FDR did not want that march. So there are many ways to get change, and we don't hear about him quite as much. And I think the last point I want to make is that when we have great black leaders, we tend to forget the discipline that they're in. Here, A. Philip Randolph is a great labor leader, but he just may be a great black leader in general outside of labor spaces. W.B. Du Bois might be a great black leader, but he may not be known as one of the greatest sociologists, if not the greatest sociologist in that discipline who ever lived. Ida B. Wells may be known as a great black leader, but I would argue, as an investigative independent journalist, she's the greatest investigative journalist America has ever produced, who should be a lead person in journalism schools. So when we're talking about hidden history, we also should talk about the disciplines that they are in and furthered for everyone else.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chuck.
100%.
Chuck Modiano. And we are very proud of actually my three guests, or not guests, but my three partners here. They're all activists, and Chuck Modiano has been out there in the streets day and night, and maybe we'll hear a little bit more about what he's been up to even in the past days. But let me jump. The theme is looking more closely at how do we continue to build labor community collaboration between labor and community to, first of all, let's just start with ending this DC military takeover. And I want to jump to the rally and march that was held on Thursday, August 28th. Of course, that was the beginning of the Solidarity Week in labor for labor around the country and right here in Washington, D.C. And it was a very powerful event. And I know that Josh was there. I'm not sure. Chuck might have already left for Detroit,
Yeah,
but
I missed it. I missed it.
but
Exactly.
let me just tell you, and Josh can jump in with me. One highlight, well, there are many highlights, of course. There were quite a large number of people there, but one highlight was to have the executive director of Free DC come out, and her main point that she spoke about to the crowd was the need for the District of Columbia to prioritize a boycott on Amazon. A boycott on Amazon. Now, that's something that I've been interested in ever since the organizing at Amazon in New York started with Chris Smalls 4 or 5 years ago. But we really have not yet had an effective boycott on Amazon. Of course, we talk about Target and other industries. But she spoke for quite a while, and I in the future we can play a clip of what she said. But she talked about not only the horrific conditions of workers in these Amazon companies, but also the role that Amazon is playing with this genocide, how they're involved with ICE, how they're involved with shipping weapons to Israel. And I don't know if Josh Armstead could help me out with that at all, but to me that was quite a shining point in that march on Thursday. But Josh, is there anything else you would like to share about Thursday's rally that did bring together community and labor?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to, point out first on that shining aspect of bringing together the community because, I think a lot of activists in whatever, for lack of a better word, sphere have heard of each other, may even know each other, but they don't often communicate with each other in such a way where we're coordinating and doing actions together. And I think, for better or worse, worse because the National Guard and all these bootleaking federal agencies with guns are walking around our streets. But it's brought together a lot of people that ordinarily may not always coordinate. I'm thinking of like the unions, DSA, Harriet's Dreams, other progressive and left leaning groups that have a lot to gain by actually being like, okay, let's work together. And it was a beautiful thing to see, on the march on Thursday on the 28th, but also just to highlight as well that people in their neighborhoods have been doing the work, right? Like in Columbia Heights in Ward 4, they have been driving back ICE repeatedly. So shout out to Columbia Heights for standing together, irregardless of like ethnicity and race and whatever background. They've been driving them, the fascists back. And in Ward 7 and 8 and 6, I've seen community work to make sure that people are safe and to defend each other. So there's a lot happening in our streets. Again, we just need to make sure that we are tightening the bond that is already growing. And like, look, we're going to have to do this if we're going to actually resist capitalism and the encroaching upon our own rights and liberties, not just as workers, but as people. Now, when it comes to Amazon, right, like we have to realize that it's one of many. There's Amazon, there's Microsoft, there's Google, any company that profits off the misery of people, whether in their warehouses, in their shopping fronts, our dilution. Jeff Bezos, of course, owns the Washington Post, right? Our dilution of the news, and even just the making of software and manufacture of weapons to send to genocidal states like Israel, right? Like these are the issues of the day. And it's all about finding a hammer right? Like, how can we actually find a way to break the actual cycle that is happening, and then to make sure that we can actually achieve some justice and manner of peace. That's the real big thing. And we won't do that by just being in our own spheres of interest and like, oh, I only care about this, or oh, this is only a labor issue, it doesn't involve labor, etc. Right? We have to make sure that we are coordinating because everything is intersectional and connected. So that was the real thing about the march on the 28th and the actions that I've seen across the city that give me a measure of hope, right? Hope for what we're building here in the region.
Absolutely. This is WPFW 89.3 FM. This is To Heal DC with me, Joni, and with Chuck Hicks today. And we are focusing on this Labor Day on the building labor community collaboration to end, first of all, this military takeover of DC and, of course, to defeat fascism and much more. I am thrilled to have as my guest today Josh Armstead, who is with Unite Local 23. He's the vice president and an activist. And, of course, Chuck Modiano and Chuck Hicks. And Chuck Modiano, let's jump back to you for a minute. Of course, I know you've been out there in those streets, and perhaps, and you know, you have too much to share. It would take probably most of the day, but share with us some of your highlights or your top concerns, maybe something positive that you've seen or something troubling that you've seen out there in the community, either in the wee hours of the night or in broad daylight with ICE and et cetera.
Well, the negatives, I think, have been well documented, and we see videos of ICE and others going after, vulnerable Black youth, undocumented. It's Gestapo tactics. But I think I do want to focus on some of the positive because I've seen the positive. You have a lot of groups, and I've been a little bit on Cop Watch, Night Watch as well, whether it is a media group, whether it is what the great work that Harriet's Wildest Dreams is doing, Free DC is doing. So they'll have, say, a go-go rally, for instance, and go-go has a rich history in DC. But after the rally, and this is last Saturday, people move into cop watches throughout the city. So it's not just a rally, which is great in its own right, but people are doing cop watches. And then you have their veterans stationed at Union Station.
Explain to people what a cop watch is.
So, yeah, a cop watch is that we're going to go into the night and film cops. We're going to film those cops, and we're going to disrupt what happens. And we have seen example after example. They do not like to be filmed. They really don't. So we film them to stop and disrupt what they're doing. We have a group of veterans who are out here, and they will go to ICE and heckle a bunch of ICE people, and ICE will literally move or break down their checkpoint. I do want to say one thing. They may have a different strategy with the National Guard. The National Guard, it tends to be young kids, 18, 19, 20, and they just joined because they wanted to get their college paid for. They didn't really sign up for this, and you get that feeling. So the veterans are speaking to them on how to refuse an order, how to do it the proper way, with a number to call in a way that you may not have a backlash. So there are many different avenues and strategies depending on who that authority is to help dismantle that system.
Okay. And are you listening to WPFW 89.3 FM?
It is with a heavy heart that the WPFW family marks the passing of Nkinji Toure. Born Anita Stroud on March 5th, 1951 in Baltimore, Maryland. Nkinji was an activist whose expansive collection of speeches and written works confront issues around reproductive justice, Black feminism, and women's rights. She was a vocal proponent of the anti-rape movement and continuously advocated for gender equality within the Black nationalist movement and the Black Panther Party. Later in life, Toure took on roles to improve quality of life for those struggling with both substance abuse and HIV/AIDS. In addition, Nkinji was a longtime WPFW producer and host of In Our Voices, and a member of the women's radio collective, Sophie's Parlor. She was instrumental in ensuring that International Women's Day programming was celebrated annually on WPFW. Homegoing services for Nkinji Toure are scheduled for Tuesday, September 2nd at J.B. Jenkins Funeral Home, 7474 Landover Road in Landover, Maryland, with viewing from 3:30 p.m. until 4:30 p.m. and service from 4:30 until 5:30 p.m. Repast to be held at the David C. Driscoll Community Park, 3911 Hamilton Street, Hyattsville, Maryland, from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. Nkinji Toure, presente.
And Nkinji is definitely presente. She is one of the reasons I am on the air, and I'm not really able to speak about her right now. She's a very dear friend. Katia, I don't know if we're able to play that piece of women workers. We may not be able. Okay, great. Let's hear this, folks. Following right up on Nkinji.
Wraps around the building. This was not the familiar morning ritual before entering the building, where you gave your labor, your mind, your faith in service, only to learn your badge no longer works. The sudden, cold rejection of a red light denying you entry. On the spot, with no warning, no explanation, you are told, turn in your badge, turn in your laptop. The tools of your trade confiscated, now evidence of your exclusion. Years of public service, years of expertise, honed through countless projects and challenges, years of loyalty, believing in the mission you served, years of personal sacrifice, putting your work before so much else, all of it erased in seconds. The course of our lives has been disturbed, leaving us to gather what remains steady, creating a ripple of instability that touches our families and our communities. Our worth has been disregarded and discredited. We have been disrespected as federal workers, and the numbers tell a devastating story. Over 300,000 Black women have been forced from the workplace in 2025 alone. We are the very people who, through the uncertainty of COVID, kept the wheels of government turning, seamlessly, faithfully, from our homes. We were called essential then, and now we are cast aside as if we were disposable. Too often our contributions are unseen. Too often our dedication is taken for granted. Too often our silence is mistaken for acceptance. But no more. Make your voice and your story heard by submitting a piece in this truth-telling anthology. In We the 92%, we claim the space we are owed. We gather the fragments of memory. We share our collective meaning. We document our truths before they are intentionally erased. Share your story with your name or under a pen name, in essay, in poetry, in short story, in your own powerful words. We the 92% is calling Black women to write, to witness, to resist, to memorialize our history. Because if we do not tell our own stories, they will not be told. Learn how to submit your contribution to this anthology and get your red hat by visiting we the92.com. Make your entry by midnight, October 31st.
And that was a perfect way to follow up with Nkinji. I know she would want that to be widely circulated. And of course, we do have some time, but 300,000 Black women have been fired. I guess it was just this year alone from the federal workforce. So that's certainly something we need to pay attention to and recognize and honor on this Labor Day. Let's go back to our guest talking about building solidarity between labor and the community, as I think is beginning to happen more than we've seen in a while in D.C., certainly represented by more than Thursday's march, but with Free D.C. and Harriet Wilder Streams collaborating with the Metropolitan Washington Council, AFL-CIO. And I don't remember seeing that kind of collaboration anytime in the recent past. But let's go back to each of our guests. Let's start again with Josh Armstead, and I would also like to give a shout out to Josh Williams, who might be listening right now as he's driving his car down to Virginia. Josh Williams, very much a part of this radio station, was the head of the Washington Metro Council AFL-CIO, I think, for about 40 years. Is that right, Chuck Hicks?
Yes, right.
And so we know that that Josh Williams will continue to give us lots of words of wisdom. He may still call in, but he is with us in spirit. Chuck Hicks, do you want to say anything about Josh Williams or anything else you may want to say this morning?
Well, the wonderful thing about Josh is able to look at the issues and bring all the different parties together and make us see that this is the goal, this is where we need to go, and this is how we get to achieve what we're trying to achieve. It was never an individual thing with Josh or one group or that group or me and I. It was always collectivism, that we achieve things collectively together. When we achieve victory, then we all have achieved victory. He's very, very sharp, very, very clear about collective bargaining, collective struggles. That was just how he felt the union movement.
Absolutely. And of course, Josh Williams is thankfully very much still with us. He was out there Thursday marching with us with Lucy Murphy, and shout out to Lucy Murphy right now. It is her birthday today. Josh was marching right there through those long blocks after the rally. Josh Armstead, anything you would like to jump in and say that we haven't yet spoken about? Perhaps you might want to talk about the We Are All DC rally march coming up on Saturday, or anything else you would like to share on this day, Labor Day.
Yeah, I can definitely talk about the upcoming rally on 6. And again, as we monitor the fact that there are jackbooted thugs in the streets, right, who wish to do harm to our neighbors and to our family, right, and our city, we have to remember that we have a duty to resist and we have a duty to escalate. So on September the 6th, again, labor and community groups are going to be meeting at Malcolm X Park, and we're going to be doing a rally. Now, I'm not going to give too many details. It starts at 11 o'clock. So if you're able, please show up, right? Like, it is vitally important because we have to make sure our presence is known, but also just in general. We have to realize, and I think this is part of the programming, that this is a, fascist government that seeks to change not just also the economics of what has been established since the New Deal, or at least the consensus of what has been established since the New Deal of FDR and the social norms, but also the cultural norms, right? We just heard a brief adverb about Black women in the workforce, 300,000 people being fired, right? And you have to realize that this is the fascist dream. It is not just the crushing of labor unions. It's also the crushing of the rights of women, misogyny. It's also the crushing of the rights of Black and brown people. This is what they want to actually do. And they want to take it piece by piece. And again, I cannot stress this enough, which is why dates like the 6th at Malcolm X Park at 11 o'clock are important. The rally on the 28th being important. As Chuck Modi just said, the cop watching and the community organizing and coordination is important, because if we don't do anything and if we are not united, these fascists will win. And I don't like fascists, so I don't want them to win. Right? So it seems as simple as that to me, right? Because sorry, there was a bus that just rolled by. I'm on the radio, so I can't say what I want to say, but it's a lot of bull, right? And like, we owe it to ourselves because we are the many, they are the few. We just have to actually be organized. And I think, on this Labor Day in general, right? And it is ironic, right? Like, Joni, we met on May Day, which is the International Workers' Day, like the actual Workers' Day, which is celebrated all over the world, in just about every continent. Ironically, had it start in this country in 1884 after the Haymarket Affair, right? Or maybe 1887. I might be mixing those dates around a little bit, but May Day was our holiday, and Labor Day, which I will say this, right, is still something worth celebrating, was the American version, right, to try to get people off May Day, right? And we can blame a lot of facts about that. I think really it was cemented in the early 1900s and definitely bolstered under McCarthyism, which leads us to a lot of the troubles that we have today. I think also that lack of coordination that a few of us haven't seen until very recently has been, especially with labor, in my opinion, because our leaders and our ethos of what made our movement, despite its challenges and struggles and, all things in capitalism are touched by capitalism and have to be overcome, right? But like, our movement had an ethos of like social progressivism, left-leaning radicalism, and also, internationalism. And so in the 50s, really late 40s and 50s, that was persecuted relentlessly by the federal government. And in its place, we have people that only focused on, well, we're going to get the best contracts, or God forbid, reactionaries even. And, I always tell my members, what good is a contract if your rent is so overpriced you can't afford to live in your city? What good is a contract with wages if you don't have any rights to walk on the street, right? Like, and so again, we are really, I believe, especially in this moment, in this time, we have to really start thinking and clawing back against the fascist dystopia that has really landed on our doorstep now, but has been ever brewing for the last, 40, 50, 60 years. It did not just come out with the bubble with Trump. Like, this has been a lot of losers' wet dream, I hate to say, for many, many years. So we have to really claw back and, strike back against it.
Yes, and I think we have to continue to also educate young people, as well as young people educating us. But really what happened in the McCarthy period, who a lot of younger people may not know, and as you just summarized, in the 50s, where unions were really the number one attack. And many, many of those unions were still have not recovered from that very organized attack during the McCarthy period. We're running out of time. Chuck, I just wanted Josh, you just to mention again the rally on Saturday. Unlike the rally on Thursday, the organizers of this rally are actually calling for people from all around the country, especially from the East Coast, to come and show solidarity with us here in DC. So the title of the rally is "We Are All DC," meaning whether you live in New Jersey, Virginia, New York, Pennsylvania, we are all DC. So if people don't stand up for DC now, it's going to have an impact, continue to have an impact on the rest of the country. So that is the one specific goal of the rally this coming Saturday. We are all DC, a national march and rally starting at 11 o'clock. Let's see, Chuck Modiano, you want to jump in and share a little bit more, including perhaps some things you're going to be doing later today or later this week?
Sure, and it's nonstop. Well, let's start. How about later in a couple of hours? Because the Harriet's Wildest Dreams is having the State of Emergency DC press conference at noon. So noon. So when this show ends, you got about an hour to get there. That's DC Superior Court, 500 Indiana Avenue, September 1st. That's today. Free DC, and give an update on what is happening with the Gestapo factions that are in DC. I have no problem saying that. And how can we respond? So we're going to learn a little bit more. And at 1 p.m., there will be a court watch. Court watch is part of what is happening now, and how can we impact what happens once a young person's arrested. That'll be at 1 p.m. right afterwards. So if you could make that, then that would be great. I just came back. Yeah,
and that's going to really emphasize what the police have been doing, attacking young people. So if you want to hear the details about that, that's how to do it.
Yeah, that's right. And go ahead. I was going to add one thing about, I just came back from the Conference of Palestine, and I could go on an hour, but I'm going to go on a minute. And in that minute, I did see Chris Smalls, who was there, and met him many times, who's just now a wonderful labor leader, but he's more than that. And with his trip to Gaza on the Handela, a lot of people maybe didn't understand what that means and where that can go. Well, it just so happens this past week, the San Diego Labor Council is the very first labor council to recognize genocide in Gaza, calls to stop arming Israel, and has condemned the abduction in very clear language, and mentions Chris in their statement. The San Diego and Imperial Labor Council calls for recognition of genocide in Gaza, condemns the abduction and assault of Chris Smalls, and demands an end to U.S. weapons transfers in Israel. So we are already seeing the fruits of how these movements are coming together and how one could affect the other.
Wow, that's something else. Say that one more time. What did they...
Yeah, the San Diego and Imperial County's Labor Council became the very first labor council to recognize genocide in Gaza. And now that's the first domino. Let's see what happens with the other dominoes. But this would not have happened if Chris himself had not made sure to bring these issues together.
Absolutely. And I want to mention to people that you could hear a very powerful interview with Chris Smalls that was broadcast last Thursday on WPFW, Code Pink at 11 a.m. You can go back to the archives, and it was about a 40-minute interview, very, very important and enlightening interview with Chris Smalls and Code Pink. Let's see. Chuck Hicks, your final comment for today, your final thoughts.
Well, I just want people to realize that this is all our fight. It's not just one group. It's all of us. We're all in this together. And if they can defeat one of us, they can defeat all of us. So we all have to be together. This is our fight. It's not this person's fight or that person's fight. This is all of our fight. Our churches, our communities, our colleges, we're all in this together. This is our fight.
Absolutely. And Chuck, again, share with the listeners, you were the president of
District Council.
AFSCME Council
20.
AFSCME Council 20, representing how many workers, approximately?
We represented about 22,000 DC government employees at that point.
Yes, and of course, that's a very historic union as well. It was part of the situation in Memphis, Tennessee with Dr. King. Yes. And so we're very proud of you, Chuck, and we're proud of your dad as well. Let's see, we have time for, let me see. I want to share that stay tuned for WPFW for the rest of the day, and there are 4 more hours of talk shows coming up from 11 to 1. You can hear Chris Garlock and probably with Elise Bryant with their 2-hour labor special. And then from 1 to 3, you can hear Mimi Rosenberg and Ken Nash all the way live from New York City. I wouldn't be surprised if they'll take us to a live rally. That's from 1 to 3 today. I want to thank Katia for putting this day together, and all of the listeners for supporting us. Josh Armstead, I'm going to give you a quick 1-minute final word, and then we're going to go out again with Mavis Staples.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. I just want to touch upon the one thing very quickly that Chuck M. actually talked about, and it goes back to the overall about this conversation, is that everything is interconnected. And, when it comes to the genocide in Palestine, shout out to Chris Smalls and his work on the Handela and the things that happened to him, unfortunately, because of the Israeli occupation forces, but like all over the country since the genocide has been happening. Labor councils and unions, the radicals and the progressives and the morally right people within them have been struggling to put out statements and do concrete action. And each time that has happened, my union has put out a statement on Palestine as well. Other unions have put out a statement on Palestine and tenant marches. We get closer to realizing and fostering that social conscious, that class conscious, that internationalism, that every person is a brother or sister or just a person in general. And so we have to always remember that, whether it's Palestine, whether it's what's happening in DC and the potential to go to other states, we must all stand united. And an injury to one is an injury to all. If you take away anything that I've said this Labor Day, that should be it.
Thank you, Josh Armstead. Thank you, Chuck Modiano, and thank you, Chuck Hicks. And we leave with the words of A. Philip Randolph. You can't take anything, you won't get anything until you can't really move forward without organization. So that's what we're about today, and happy Labor Day to everybody.
Yes.
We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. Union is behind us. We shall not be moved. The union is behind us. We shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We're fighting for our freedom. We shall not be moved. Fighting for our freedom. We shall not be like a tree that's planted by the water. We we shall not be moved like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved.